Mathematics always came naturally. Studied mathematics at university, saw a real world and how it could be applied, and given that I was working in retail at the time as well, it was a natural extension to say, how can I use data, how can I use information, mathematics to drive better retailing decisions? Sometimes a lot of people wonder, well, what do we need maths for? And I think Geotech's a classic example of answering that question, is it can answer all sorts of questions, from something as diverse as retail and where you might put a new retail store. Statistical Disneyland, that's really what we're about.
So we do a lot of analysis and sales prediction modelling for our clients. So that can include all sorts of clients, from startup businesses through to major corporations. Some of the challenges that we face, one of the biggest ones that comes to mind is in terms of what a lot of statisticians like to call data paralysis.
That's the reason we need companies like Geotech, because ultimately companies don't want to be buried in data. We call it data paralysis, where there's just so much information around now, people can get lost in it. And they become more confused than when they started.
Essentially, at the end of the day, it's trying to fundamentally help clients better understand why some stores perform better than others. That's really the question that we're always trying to answer, and then overlaying those insights into some actionable and quantifiable measures that they can take to help improve the performance of the network.
Over the years I've been doing this, there's been a huge increase in demand for using information and data to make informed decisions in predictive analytics and geospatial data analysis. Predictive analytics is basically developing tools and models using the rules of what's gone before to predict going forward.
It's essentially being able to predict the store sales potential for a client that's looking to open a new store.
And more importantly, how much sales will it do and how many dollars will it take off the other stores around?
Here at Geotech, we do try to make sure that we are staying on top of the constantly evolving landscape in the predictive analytics world to result in the most accurate or best outcomes for our client that then can be turned into actionable insight.
So ultimately, in a large network, you have a beautiful opportunity where you have a sample of stores, some perform well, some not so well. A bit of analysis can unlock what is it about the ones that perform well compared to the ones that don't, and therefore what are the key drivers, then be used to build into a mathematical model to actually predict sales in dollars.
One question that comes up really often for us here at Geotech is in terms of product category analysis. If they've got a number of different product lines that they offer to their consumers or their clients, we can actually undertake analysis for them to determine what product category lines are most aligned with each other. So there's opportunity for cross-sell or upsell in store. And they can also then determine things like who are their key target markets for each product line.
To make sure the products that they're putting into the stores are going to align with the people that are going to be shopping there.
I've had it a couple of times where businesses out of Western Australia look at the east coast of Australia and they think because maybe their brand works really well in the inner city of Perth, that translates to just locating in the inner city of Melbourne or Sydney. And if they just moved that business model across and plonked it in Sydney or Melbourne, it would be a terrible situation, much larger ethnic populations in Sydney and Melbourne, much larger sort of student populations, very different dynamic in the inner city in Sydney and Melbourne. So that's just one example where we can work with a client to help them understand the pitfalls of just moving a business from one area to another. The reality is no one can look at a network of 1,000 stores and fully analyse what makes the good ones good and what makes the not so good ones not good. The only way to really fully appreciate what is driving sales is analysis. So ultimately, you had incredibly executives that understood their brand, but they're still unable to bring to the table sort of insight that analysis can. And I think businesses, large and small, have now finally woken up to how much analysis can bring them.